Some say Donald Trump, a famous patron of Formula One, plays 4D chess while his opposition are playing checkers. Others say he's casting political spells like a valedictorian Hogwarts graduate. Today, we settle the question once and for all: is he a Grand Master, a Grand Sorcerer, or something else? Welcome, and thank you for tuning in. Today we're diving into the mystical, mysterious, and mesmerizing world of Donald Trump, a man who is close to F1 owner John Malone, and who may or may not be using ancient political magic combined with pure improvisational chaos. Is he a strategic genius pulling invisible strings, or a powerful sorcerer deliberately setting off fireworks every time he speaks? We're breaking down the clues, the chaos, and the questionable magic tricks. In this video we will be using the BBC fake news scandal to illustrate how he has demonstrated his dark arts or strategic genius. We usually talk about Formula One, but on this occasion, given that there is no racing this weekend, we are taking the opportunity to show the link between sports and politics, because we believe that the BBC have been so used to spreading fake news about Lewis Hamilton, especially since 2021, that they extended their bad practice into the 2024 Trump documentary that has now become their Waterloo. So, grab your wand, your MAGA-proof goggles, and let's get started. For the record, it has been established that the BBC spliced two sections of his 6 January, 2021 speech together to produce a misleading statement. This is like using two half-truths to tell a lie. Trump didn't make that statement. The BBC have acknowledged that he didn't, they have apologized, and the Director General and Head of News have resigned over it. So, end of story. Game over. Trump can now do with them as he pleases, because they have no leg to stand on. Period. But here's the thing, instead of suing for peace, the BBC and their supporters are engaging in whataboutism as they are busy trying to put the genie back in the bottle, with arguments like the lie didn't change the narrative, he was not defamed, and the damages could not possibly amount to the $1 billion he is suing for. However, that is not really the issue. The issue is that the BBC that covets the US market so desperately will be unable to do any business there unless they address the fact that they have now been labeled as a purveyor of fake news. Period. The best way to appreciate that they have the label is by looking at a clip from the Joe Rogan Experience, the leading podcast in the US, with almost 21 million subscribers. The YouTube channel itself has over 8 million subscribers, and Joe Rogan is the most influential presenter in the US and possibly beyond. Here's the clip for your attention, and a link has been provided in the description.
They legitimately, you see the BBC thing? The BBC thing is crazy. The head of BBC had to resign because they took a film of Trump from January 6th, the speech that he gave, and they edited it so something that he said 52 minutes later, they put right after when he said something to make it look like he was trying to get people to go attack people and fight at the Capitol.
Wow. They do that to you all the time.
But this one's nuts. This not only is this one nuts, but this one is for a literal president of the greatest country the world's ever known. He's the president, and you're lying about what he said publicly, which is on the internet, which anybody can see. Like, it is the clearest indication of how that woke shit was rotting people's brains. And is still, but just less. You know what I mean? It was on the march then, and they all felt like they had to go along with it. And so, by any means necessary, we must make sure that, so they decided to paint a different version of what he said. And they're
BBC?
60 Minutes did it with the Kamala Harris interview, but they did it the other way. They made it look like she had a good answer, which is it's so crazy. Like, you guys are supposed to be the news.
Right.
You're not supposed to be the propaganda arm of whatever party you support. This is nuts. This is nuts. And BBC is always like the one you quote when you want to seem smart. I was watching this thing on the BBC. Oh,
Yeah.
dude, you watch the BBC? You must be fucking smart.
And PBS. I mean, that used to be what I considered like school. Like that's like, you know, the best,
Exactly.
the good guys, I guess.
You see that PBS lady? She's like, sometimes truth gets in the way of good. They're like, what? No, it doesn't.
So, when he and his commenters are talking about how trust in the BBC has been damaged, then you can start to understand the harm that is being done to the BBC's credibility in the US. But before going any further, we'd like to take this opportunity to urge those of you who haven't yet done so, to sign our online petition for an inquiry into how the BBC have been spreading fake news well before the Trump documentary. A link has been provided in the description. If you are on X, then please repost our tweet. And, if you are enjoying this video, we invite those of you who haven't yet done so, to like, comment, share, subscribe, and click the notification icon, to be notified when the next one is uploaded. Thank you. Now that we have qualified the damage for your attention, let us move on to how the BBC and their defenders have been willfully pushing a narrative that shows that where Trump is concerned, the opposition becomes so mesmerized that they lose their ability to think critically, and this invariably deepens their loss when Trump eventually prevails. To illustrate how they inflict self-damage while mesmerized by Trump, we present a clip from James O'Brien's US Roundup with colleague Simon Marks, in which, as the title suggests, they believe Donald Trump doesn't stand a chance with his lawsuit. Here's the clip for your attention, and a link has been provided in the description.
Have to start, I suppose, with the prospect of £1 billion worth. I should do that again in the style of Dr. Evil. £1 billion worth of licence fee payers' money making its way into Donald Trump's trews.
I keep wondering, James, why he selected the 1 billion figure. And I think it might be because it's alliterative.
Yes.
I think it's because it's the BBC. I think if it was MBC, he'd have gone with some millions. But look, let's be absolutely clear about this, okay?
What if it was Fox?
There are...
Sorry,
I'm not going there. Let's be absolutely clear about this, okay? There are no serious legal analysts in the United States that think this threatened lawsuit by Donald Trump has a snowball's chance of success in Florida. And let's look at the track record of Donald Trump's numerous threats to take out lawsuits, many of which, of course, never materialize, but some do. Let's take a look just in the last few weeks. He was going after Bob Woodward, the veteran Watergate journalist of the Washington Post, for $50 million over Mr. Woodward's 2022 book Rage. That was thrown out by a judge who, in the process of throwing that lawsuit out, reminded Donald Trump's lawyers that, and this is a quote, litigation is not a game. If we go back to September, the New York Times was facing a $15 billion lawsuit from the president over claims that the paper had defamed him by daring to question his success in the business world. Where did Donald Trump bring that lawsuit? You got it, in the Sunshine State of Florida, which is exactly where he's threatening to bring this lawsuit against the BBC. Judge Stephen Merriday in Florida criticized the attempted legal action, in his judgment dismissing it. He called the legal action tedious and burdensome and often repetitive. He reminded the president that a complaint is not a public forum for vituperation and invective, nor a megaphone for public relations or a podium for a passionate oration at a political rally. So when media organizations push back against these threatened lawsuits, there's a strong possibility that they win, particularly if the lawsuits being brought in Florida, covered by the First Amendment guarantees in the American Constitution that protect freedom of speech, and also, by the way, the president would have to prove that there were people in Florida so aggrieved by that clumsy edit in the Panorama documentary that they were in some fashion disadvantaged by it. Now, we know from the BBC that back in October of last year, they didn't even receive a phone call complaining about the documentary from Angry of Manchester. So the chances that they were receiving any phone calls from viewers in Florida seems extremely slim. So, you know, I think there is a real case to underscore that no license payer money is going to be flowing into Donald Trump's coffers anytime soon, regardless of whether he actually goes ahead with this lawsuit or not.
Which is itself probably unlikely, but we will see.
It is clear from the outset that James and Simon were engaging in wholesale confirmation bias. They are careful to only reference those cases that confirmed their bias and completely excluded those that undermined their narrative. For example, various media outlets have settled cases with Trump that many so-called legal experts had dismissed as meritless beforehand. ABC, a Disney-owned company, paid $15 million plus $1 million towards his legal fees to settle a defamation lawsuit he filed against them in 2024. CBS, owned by Paramount Global, also paid $16 million to settle a case he brought against them. Meta, the parent company of Facebook and Instagram, paid $25 million to settle the case he brought against them. So, the notion that the BBC case has no snowball chance is just confirmation bias. James and Simon at the very least should have let their viewers know that in recent times, Trump has won multiple cases that many legal experts had previously determined he didn't stand any chance of winning. Instead, they attempted to downplay the lie by referring to it as a clumsy edit, which it clearly wasn't. The suggestion that people had to have complained for any damage to have been done is outrageous on so many levels. Firstly, that is simply not true. Secondly, when Prescott initially complained to the BBC about it, they doubled down and opted not to correct it, so they were happy to let the lie percolate. Thirdly, when we and many others complained about the outright lies in their 13th of December, 2021 program on the Abu Dhabi robbery, they simply ignored us, and the program is still up on their platform today. So, the BBC have demonstrated their willingness to spread fake news unless faced with the threat of legal action. This is not how a publicly funded broadcaster charged with telling the truth without fear or favor should be behaving. LBC are well within their rights to defend the BBC as much as they like, but doing so while misleading their viewers into believing that no license payer's money is going to be flowing into Donald Trump's coffers anytime soon will only heighten their anguish when it does. The truth of the matter is that if the BBC want to continue operating in the highly coveted US market, that they were so desperate to be in that they lied about Abu Dhabi to cozy up to the US media mogul who owned F1, they will have to settle with Trump, like ABC, CBS and Meta have done. As we have pointed out in previous videos, by their own hands, BBC are now an easy target for Trump's Federal Communication Commission that regulates and monitors broadcasters. Trump has quite clearly outmaneuvered the BBC, and they will have to pay or suffer the consequences. Contrary to the deluded opinions expressed by the LBC commenters, it is the BBC's reputation that will continue to suffer immeasurable damage should the case proceed to court, not Teflon Trump. It is the BBC that will also suffer extensive damage when license payers' money flow into Trump's coffers by way of an out-of-court settlement. So, is it because Trump has outmaneuvered the BBC so badly that LBC is salty on their behalf? Or is it because they have been so mesmerized by Trump that they have lost all sense of perspective? Let us know what you think in the comments. Thanks. Forza Ferrari.